is happening, guys? In today's episode, we're going to talk about possibly the most useful skill in dog training. In my opinion, it is the skill that I use.
I would agree.
Almost I for sure use it every single day. And I would say like multiple times per day. But someone asked me a question on the channel in one of the comments saying what are the useful skills that you guys like to use? And I thought that's a great question. Let's start talking about some of the stuff that we find really, really helpful. The things that we really use really often, and we wanted to talk to you guys here in the train station about those. Maybe we'll make a couple pre-recorded videos about it. I'm not totally sure yet, but we have a lot going on today. There's lots of exciting additions to the train station. Now, if you're a train station regular, you know that I try to break the stream basically every single week, bringing you more interesting stuff, and it's really fun for me to change things up and make it more challenging. But we have a couple of interesting things that are going to happen in today's episode. At the end of the day, at the end of our show today, we're going to do our call-in show. Now, I put a request out for you guys to send us messages. Yeah, on Anchor, our podcast platform. I'd sent that out in the community link here on YouTube. I'd also asked some of our Facebook followers to check it out. So we're going to answer one of those questions from one of the voice questions that we have today. We have another pop-up store too, so that you can be part of the McCann Dogs team. Basically, we have our Team T, something that we just created not that long ago. I'm excited to share it with you guys. But awesome. Now that the pre-show is over, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about possibly the most useful skill that your dog can possibly have. We're going to talk to you about the wait command. I'm Ken Steepe.
I'm Kayl McCann.
Welcome back to McCann Dogs. Now, Kayl is a little hoarse.
I am a little hoarse.
Just a little bit.
I sound very different than normal.
It's very, very horsey. Horsey-like. What's up? What's up with that?
What?
What's up with your voice?
Oh, I was like, what do you mean, what's up? I've just been teaching a lot lately, and my voice, I guess, needs a bit of a break. So I just made myself tea with honey.
That's helpful.
I'll be good for the next hour. No
maybe
problem.
You don't drink enough water. I know people always say when your voice gets horsey, you don't drink enough water. I think it's
more so that I talk too much.
Well, you know what? She said it, guys. Not me.
You know what? I totally just set that up and let you knock it out of the park, which was not cool.
If you want to support the train station today, we have our another pop-up shop. We did it a couple weeks ago, and you know what was the most popular item in the pop-up shop?
Tell me.
It was the fur family for the Win training bag.
Really?
And remember, you thought people weren't really going to dig that one?
Yeah, I do.
love to say I told you so, Kayl.
Well,
I told you so. But you can grab that.
All about winning tonight.
I know. If you check out the link in the description below, you can grab your own McCann Dogs Team T. Now, the other exciting thing, if you have a question and you want to ask it, you can call us literally on Anchor, our app. That link is in the description below as well, and we may answer your question here on the train station. But even if you're watching this in the replay, that's a great opportunity to check out what, send in your question, because sometimes it's hard to type out all the specifics, but very quickly you can send us a voice message. So
if you're watching us on Facebook as well, make sure that you go over to YouTube and watch from the YouTube link, so that when you type in your questions, we can see them live, and then we're going to do our very best to get through as many questions as we possibly can.
For sure.
We can't see the ones on Facebook though, so if you want to ask any questions, jump off Facebook and jump on YouTube.
Definitely head on over to YouTube. You guys know, those of you train station passengers that have been here before, you guys know that we always love to go to our live cam. We go to Dan, the moderator man. You'll see him in the chat. If you're over here on YouTube, you will see Dan. And Dan, we love to go to our live cam with Dan. And let's see what Dan is up to today. It's always interesting when we go to Dan here. Oh, there he is. Hey, buddy. How's it going? Oh, there's his daughter. Oh, I love Beeline. Oh, that's adorable. Well, I guess we know which dog, who the demo dog is for today.
That is the cutest thing.
If you guys, this is your first time here with us on the train station, my name's Ken Steepe. This is Kayl McCann. We're professional dog trainers at McCann Dogs, where every single week we help more than 500 dog owners to overcome the same dog training challenges that you have. So this is the place. We do these live streams for you guys. So if you have a question
every Thursday
about dog training, for sure, every Thursday. So if you have a question about dog training, now's the time to ask it. You can ask us in the chat. Now, we try to get to all of them, as many as we can. If somebody drops a super chat, we'll spend, obviously that one will be sort of focused on a little bit. But we love the opportunity to answer some of your questions. So with no further ado, further ado, let's talk about why we think the wait might be possibly the most the most useful
I think you forgot
skill.
something.
What's it? Oh, you're right. You know what?
Thank God I'm here.
Thank goodness. Yeah, I know. I don't know what I'd do without you. I nearly missed my favorite part of the show. And I've seen a couple people are way ahead of me. Way ahead of me. It's time for the roll call. Where are you joining the train station from? I want to know where you guys are watching. And I love to see. It's so cool to see. Yeah, I know. I love to see where you guys are. And we get some amazing students from all over the world. And, you know, we get messages sometimes on different platforms, and people like literally all over the world. There's been times when I've had to like look up a country, and I that's a little embarrassing, but I've had to like figure out where this country was.
Improving in our geography.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let us know where you guys are joining in from. I see there's lots of people jumping in the chat already.
I also see my good friend Maureen Michaud, who thinks she's hilarious, and she's saying, "Stop yelling at all your students." I think she's thinking that's why I've lost my voice.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Now, Maureen actually has Beeline's brother.
Oh, very cool.
And she lives in Quebec.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hi, Maureen.
I see you guys jumping in here in the chat. Look at this roll call. It's so cool to see where everybody's coming from. I see Alice from SoCal, Tucson, Arizona, Lucy the Talking Dog, Michigan, North Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina, Houston, Texas. It's Melissa Coolin joining us again. She's a train station regular. Welcome back, Melissa. She is joining us from Hubbard's, Nova Scotia. I see Jimmy from Riverside, California, Pennsylvania, New Mexico. Hang on one sec. What's this? Oh, okay. Vermont, Georgia. Dan the man just dropped it. I thought it was a message to us. I wasn't sure. California, London, England. Now, Imani, I thanks for staying up late with us, because I know you guys are about 5 hours ahead, I think. So I appreciate you hanging out with us here in the train station. Brisbane, Australia.
Knoxville.
Knoxville, Illinois. Texas. Very cool. And Siobhan is joining us from Atlanta. Got a new puppy on Saturday. Well, congratulations. It's a really exciting process, and this is the right place to be. We have lots of puppy training information, lots and lots of videos for you guys. So now let's talk about why the weight may be the most useful skill in your puppy training repertoire.
Yeah, I wonder if we should just touch on the fact that we have the two exercises. Do you want to leave that to later?
Sure, yeah, no, we can talk about it now for sure.
So one of the things that I think that we do a little bit different is we actually have two stay exercises, if you will. Stay out, I'll just use that term because that's sort of the common term that most people use. One that we use for a little bit more formality, for more emotional control, for more rules that we would teach with a dog when they're very young, just to teach them about having good emotional control, that type of thing. And then we also teach them another exercise that we call wait. And essentially it's like a temporary stay. And the purpose is for it to have two different exercises is to teach the dog that in one scenario, we're always going to return back to their side, and that when we tell them to stay, we really mean it. So we really want them to hold that position, and we would use that in really important scenarios where we absolutely don't want them to move no matter what. It's not necessarily a convenient exercise because you would return back to your side, to your dog's side, but that's not really the point of it. The point is to teach rules and structure and things like that. Where the wait, which is what we're going to talk to you about today, is something that we use literally every single day with our dogs to help control them in scenarios where we want to, keep them safe or keep us safe, or we just want them to use a bit of emotional control. But it's almost like a little freeze command where we just say wait, and whatever position they're in, they'll just stop and hold that position until we give a release command. And the release command we use is okay. And when we say that, the dog's allowed to
Did you just apologize to the pop filter? How Canadian of her. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I really I'll get you a double. I said that, but they have to hold position until we say wait, and then they can move from there. And we're going to go over all the scenarios in which that we use it, but it is incredibly helpful, especially if you have a young dog that's excitable, that is energetic, or if you live in a busy area and you need to keep your dog under a bit more control. There's just all kinds of uses that you can utilize it for, and we'll talk about that today.
And it's just so versatile. Like, I'm thinking right away of going to some some competitions and maybe you need your dog to wait. You open the door or open the crate door and you need your dog to remain there because maybe it's a busy, congested area. I'm sure lots of people, drive somewhere to take their dog for a hike or something. The last thing you'd want is to open the door and have your dog bolt away.
I literally, just before coming on the live stream, I just had my dogs out in our backyard there, and I wanted them to stay in the backyard, and I was opening the gate to come out front, and I just said, wait, and I opened the gate, and all the dogs stood there waiting for me to close the door behind me, and I thought, we're about to talk about that, and that was one of the most easy examples to use for how, awesome the command is. I don't have dogs barging out of the backyard and onto the driveway or down the road. They just kind of hang out there and they wait because I've asked them to.
For sure. And we did touch on a little bit on the difference between stay and wait. And we know how you might be using right now your stay for everything. Maybe you're asking your dog to stay when you're at their side. Maybe you're asking your dog to stay just to remain in position. But the big difference is that the stay is the only time your dog can move out of that position is when you're at their side. The wait can be from anywhere. So I want you to think about that. Like, what situations are you using at home? Maybe you're using the stay now that you can start using the stay for, because literally I use it multiple times a day. For example, quick one, people, you're walking through a doorway. You ask your dog to sit and then wait, and then you can open the door. Maybe you have your hands full and you allow your dog through the door. There's a similar way to train both exercises. And if this is your first time on the train station, we'll chat for a bit. We'll maybe do some demonstrations. And then we'll sit down and we'll chat a little bit more about it. So that's a great time to ask your questions. But I kind of want to start at the very beginning. So maybe for our puppy owners in the train station today, maybe we can talk a little, show them maybe how to teach their puppy to wait up, not barge out of their crate.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be maybe a good skill. Yep. And also maybe at the same time, we can talk about wait for your food, because this is a great natural training opportunity. And this is less about teaching a specific wait command.
Formal.
More formal. But this is a great opportunity to build a little bit of leadership, but get your puppy to think, problem solve a little bit.
Yeah, one of the things that we like to do, especially with young puppies, is sort of the idea of a rule out. And if you've never heard that term before, essentially what you're doing is you're having your dog offer to do something that you want in order for you to give them something that they want. So to give you an example with the crate door, which I'll show you in a moment, most dogs, when you open the door, they want to barge out of the crate and get out and do stuff and have fun. And what we would love for them to do is come out and be calm so we could more easily hook their leash on or get control of them. So we teach our dogs to wait when we open the door. So even if the door is open, the dog will stay behind the crate threshold until we release them. And what we'll basically do when the dog comes out is we'll shut the door, or as they attempt to come out, we'll shut the door, not allowing them to do so, and then open the door again. And basically, it's sort of a problem-solving game for the dog. And the dog basically is in charge of their own fate. All I'm going to do is reward the dog by letting them out of the crate by doing something that they want. I think it's much easier to show you than it is to explain.
Yeah, and we often talk about the McCann method. And the McCann method, it's all about choice, letting your dog choose one thing or another. Then if they make the wrong choice, we show them what the right one is. And if they make the right choice, then we can acknowledge it for them. But you guys know, if you've been here before, you know what a big fan I am of tooting. And with that said, it's time to head on over to the train station.
Give me some lights, baby.
They've even got the light on command
now. Oh, look at that. Cool. That's a really nice light. It's new.
Yeah.
Okay, now for the sake of the demonstration, I'm actually not going to say the word wait because she knows the word wait. So I'm just going to sort of show you what you would do if you were training this. So I have some treats here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the door, and I'm going to anticipate that when I open the door, Beeline, who's a little cute freckle-faced little border collie puppy in here, when I open the door, she's probably going to try and come out right away. So if she does that, I'm only going to open the door a little bit, because if she tries to come out without me telling her that she's allowed to, I'm simply going to shut the door back on her again. And then I'm going to open it up. And I'm just going to repeat that process until she stops trying to barge out of the crate. And when she chooses to do that, I'm going to reward her. So I do have some treats in my hand here. I'm going to go ahead and open the door. Oops. So she tried to barge out right away, so I just closed the door. Yes, good girl. I'm going to try that again. Yes, well done. Good girl. Yes, good girl. Now, we have played this game before, so I only had to shut the door on her once, and she went, oh, right, I remember this game. When you try this with your dog for the first time, don't be surprised if you have to open and shut the door many times before they understand that. That's certainly not a problem. They will understand. Now what I'm going to do is tell her, okay, yay, good girl, and I can let her come out. So I'm going to try that again. In your kennel. Good girl. I'm going to close the door and see what happens. Yes, good girl. And I can reward her. Now that she's doing the exercise quite well, I can start to put a command on it. So I'm going to close the door again. As I open the door, I'm going to tell her wait. And then if she does, I'm going to yes and reward her. If she barges out and she does not wait, I'm simply going to shut the door. Again, I'm not mean or nasty or yelling. I'm just being very calm and assertive about what I'm doing and clear about what my expectation is. Wait. Yes, good. Wait, little bee. Wait. Oh, you're so smart. Good. Wait. Now, once I've accomplished this step, the next thing that I want to be able to do is see if I can attach her leash to her collar. Wait, that she is not wearing. Hold on. Hold that thought.
Well, let's go back. Oh, look at
Here
that
it
weight,
is.
though.
Wait.
Oh,
Good.
good
Wait.
girl.
You can add some distance, of course. I'm going to reward her for that. That was really good. So I'm just going to slip her collar on. Good girl. Good. Wait. Yes. And then if you have a dog that's a little bit unruly, I might let her come out. Okay. Sit. Oops. Sit. Yay! Good sit. And I'm going to give her a job to do right away, and that's going to prevent her from jumping all over me when she comes out. That was such a good girl. So that's one of the exercises that you can do in terms of using the crate. Now I'm going to show you what you can use when it comes to using food. Do you want me to use this food in my hand, or want me to use a food bowl? Or
I can grab a food bowl maybe.
So you can also start to teach the dogs the weight using a bit of food as a distraction. So again, all I'm going to do here is work on teaching her to maintain position when I have food as a distraction. So I'm going to ask her to sit. Good girl. And I'm going to drop a couple treats in this bowl here. She heard that. Now, in order to make sure I have control, here, Bee, sit. Good girl. I'm going to keep the leash on, but I'm not going to pull it tight. I'm going to keep the leash loose, and I'm simply going to tell her wait, and I'm going to place the bowl down in front of her. Now, not directly in front, because that would be too challenging to begin, but I'm going to put it a little bit further away. Wait. Yes, good. Wait. Now I can take some of the food, and I can reward her in position. Good. Wait. Yes. Now, if she didn't wait, I can stop her with the leash, since I have the leash in my hand, and I would pick the bowl up out of the way. So she got up, I would bring her back with the leash. Sit. Good girl. Loosen my leash. Wait. Yes. And then place the bowl down. The significance of a loose leash is that I do not want to hold my dog in position, because she's not doing any of the thinking if that's the case. My leash is loose. She has a choice to either stay or go. Good girl. I should say wait or go. Now I'm going to make it a bit more challenging for her. I'm going to wiggle the bowl. Wait. Good. Wait. You're awfully stretchy there, Missy Moo. Yes, good girl. Now she just did a good job of pulling her head away, so I'm going to reward her for that. That was very good, girl. Good. Wait. And then I can start to introduce a release command. So when I'm ready, I'm going to tell her the word, which I cannot spell, because then I would be saying the word. And then I'm going to let her have the food. Ready? Okay. Yay! Good girl. And then I can let her have a little snack from there. Good girl.
So why don't we also go briefly over the beginning of the weight in the standing position?
Yeah, sure.
Really straightforward.
Okay, so that is just a way to show the dog just through trial and error. I think you might have to move the camera up a little bit, hon.
I did.
Okay, you see me? I think my head might be cut off. Oh, you can see me. Beautiful. Excellent. Okay, I'm just going to attach my bait bag here, since I'm going to be working with her at my side. It's going to give me a little bit more ease of getting my treats out. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Bee at my left-hand side. Get in, Bee. Get in. Sit. Good girl. Now, once she's sitting at my side, actually, let's turn this way so that they can see more easily. Get in. Sit. You're so good. I'm going to make sure that when she's sitting, her leash is loose. Again, I don't want to be holding and forcing her to sit in position. I need to just work on getting her to sit at my side first. Now, I would have trained, before we teach the wait command with our own dogs, we teach them to sit at our side and just hold position at our side first. So once your dog is sitting at the side, you can reward. If your dog was to get up out of position, you would simply shorten up on your leash and just place them back into that sit at your left-hand side and then loosen up once again. Once she's able to maintain the sit while I'm beside her, my next step would be seeing if I can move out in front of her. So I'm going to give the command wait. I'm going to give a clear hand signal so she knows what cue she's looking for. But I'm not just for the first time going to say wait and then just walk away and hope to see what happens. We want to build everything new that we teach our dog on success. So I'm going to make it incredibly easy for her when I first begin this exercise. I'm going to tell her wait. And our hand signal is just a wave past their nose. So think wait, wave, okay, which is different from stay, okay? Wait. I'm simply going to pivot right in front of her. Wait. Good girl. If she's able to hold that weight, yes. Good girl. Good weight. Yes. Good weight. Good. Okay. Yay. Good girl. And then I can say, okay, when I'm ready. Okay, let's try that again. Get in here. Oh, she's very sneezy. Get in. Oh, my goodness. That's a big sneeze, babe. Good sit. Wait. Good weight. Good girl. Good weight. Yes. Good. I'm going to reward her in front. Wait. Good girl. Yes. Okay. Yay. And then I can release her from there. Now, believe it or not, most people when they're training, they want to add distance before they do anything else. And we actually do the opposite. I want to be able to fix my dog back into position if she makes a mistake within 1 second. I'm not sure we mentioned this at the beginning of the live stream, but dogs have a 1 second learning time frame. So if she was holding the weight and I was at a distance and she got up and it took me 5 or 6 or 10 seconds to get her back into position, there's going to be a disconnect for my dog. She's not going to understand that I wanted her to actually stay in that position. I need to have her sitting again within 1 second of her getting up. So rather than adding distance, I would actually add distraction before I move away from her. So I might add some distractions this time. Wait. So command and signal, wait. I'm going to stand in front of her, wait. Yes, good girl. I might see if I can clap my hands. And most dogs, when they're first learning, will jump up because that's super fun. And if that happened, I would just say sit, and I would place her into that sitting position. Good, sit. Wait, wait. Yes, good girl. Each little distraction that I do, I would reward her for that. Very good. And finally, when I'm ready for her to get up, I'm going to very clearly tell her, ready? Okay, yay, good girl. And then I can release and reward from there. But it's really important she learns that I get to start and end the exercise by giving her clear information. That was good girl.
Mary Williams has a good question. She says, because of the distractions of other dogs and people at class, despite Bodhi being so fast to do exactly what I asked to get the treat, as soon as she gets the treat, she gets out of position.
That's a pretty common one. So when that happens, if you go to feed your dog and you haven't actually got the food to the dog's nose and your dog gets up like Beeline just did, I wouldn't actually feed that. I would, put my food away, and then I would place her back, okay? If it's the opposite problem, if you were able to feed your dog and as soon as you fed, your dog gets up, you need to do multiple rewards. So rather than having one piece of food in your hand, I'm going to have 2 or 3 in my hand, and I'm going to do this. Yes, feed. Yes, feed. Yes, feed. Good girl. Okay. And I'm going to release before my dog has a chance to move. I'll show you that again. Sit. Good girl. Wait. I can show you from in front. I have several pieces of food. Yes. Good girl. Yes. Good. Yes. Good girl. Okay. Yay. So I'm releasing before she has a chance to move. And the reason why the food is so rapid is because I'm trying to teach her that once you get a piece of food, pay attention because another one could be coming quickly. Another thing that I see a lot in classes when I'm watching people try to train this is how they reward the food is also important. Weight, and this may or may not be part of your issue as well. If you're feeding and you're rewarding your dog out of position, like some dogs will stand up and they get a piece of food, or people are moving their hands all over the place, like look how much she's moving based on where I hold my hand. So when I practice this, okay, settle down now. Yes. See how I reward with her head and everything in position? Yes. She's looking up at me? Yes. So she doesn't have to feel the need to leave the sit to get her treat. I'm making sure that I'm close enough that my food is coming towards her. Very good girl. Okay. And then I can release from there. So hopefully a couple of those things will help.
Tons of great questions in here. So let's head back on over for a minute. Also, Kayl's dropping bombs, knowledge bombs in the train station. I'm tooting and you're dropping bombs. I just realized how much fun that is. So
I feel like that's an interesting choice of lingo.
I know, exactly.
We'll go with it.
So some really good questions here. Now, a couple of things I wanted to point out very quickly is look who this. He's watching the train station tonight.
No.
Our buddy Dante from Brazil.
I miss you.
Hey, buddy. So,
that's
some
great.
really good questions. Now's your chance to ask your dog training question about your weight, and sometimes about your stay might be an appropriate question as well. I like this one from Patricia Denston. LOL, I had a friend laughing at me for doing jumping jacks and dancing around my dog.
I wouldn't laugh at you. I would give you a high five. That's awesome.
I like that one.
You got to be creative.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. What other good weight ones do we have? Oh, I think maybe this one. So Rising Bravely says, we saw you teach weight in another video and started it this week. I've seen big growth in her self-control across the board. Super impressed and thankful for this tool. Yeah.
It really doesn't take long, and the steps aren't that hard. So if you just sort of pick away at it a little bit, the dogs start to figure it out really quickly. And then all of a sudden you think, gosh, this is a useful thing. I can use it in this scenario, in this scenario. So that's awesome. Good job.
Christina Ramsey says, I've been working on sit down. My puppy sits right in front of me. How do I teach her to stand by my side? I'm thinking ahead for when we start training. And I think our moderator, man, was on that. And teach your dog to sit at your side. So that was really good.
Yeah, I think she went stand at her side, though.
So Melinda has an interesting question. And
it's basically the same thing.
Maybe this is related to the weight, but she asks, do you ever train an engagement command on a command, especially for dog sports like agility? For example, saying ready to cue engagement and then all done after sequence of behaviors.
So funny. I was literally talking to somebody about this today. It's so weird.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, absolutely. We use lots of engagement commands to motivate the dog and get them ready to work. And we don't even use them in agility. We use it in our basic obedience training as well to get the dogs excited, especially if it's like for maybe a slower exercise where the dogs can get a little bit distracted or like, okay, we're doing this again kind of thing. So we will use like ready, set. I probably should be careful about saying that.
I know.
Beeline's ears just perked up.
Very excited.
So we will definitely teach that. Just to build a bit of excitement. And we'll often use that before, ready, set, and then we'll give them a bunch of rewards, or ready, set, and then we'll have a little game of tug, or we'll do restraint recalls just to teach them to amp up when we give them those cue words. As far as the all done goes, I typically don't really do that with my dogs. I have a release command, which is the word okay, which you've heard me use before that. But having a ready command is a wonderful tool to have for any energy level of dog. Even if you have a high-minded dog, it's still great to use for anything.
Yeah.
Not even agility.
I like this question from Katie C. Do you always train wait with a command, or do you make some situations a choice for the dog? Like when the front door is open, do you always say wait, or is it expected that your dog doesn't go out? And I think this actually speaks a little bit to the crate exercise that we did. Our expectation is that the dog's not going to burst out of their crate, but it's nice to have some redundancy, especially if there's it's a young dog, or if there's a really stimulating environment. It's nice to have a little redundancy there, so that if so let's say I open the crate door and shoot, I forgot my leash is in the front seat, and I've got to go around to the front seat to get my leash. I'm going to ask my dog to wait, just as a sort of a reinforcer and a little bit extra. What's the word I'm looking for? Extra assuredness.
Extra cue.
Yeah, an extra cue for that dog to remain in position, so that it really helps them to understand. And I'm being very clear with my expectations. I think we should actually talk a little bit.
I don't think that it's unreasonable though to insist that your dog learn to do things independently. So for example,
right.
When I showed that crate demonstration a few moments ago, I didn't even need to say wait with her. I opened the door, I shut the door a few times, and she went, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to barge out, and I didn't even have to say anything. Beeline is also, so ever since a baby puppy, we have several levels in our house. Our house is the 3-story house, so we don't allow her to go up to the story above without our permission or without us going with her. And since a baby puppy, we would have her go and wait at the bottom of the stairs. And then when one of us was ready, we'd tell her, okay. And then she could run up. And since she's been doing it so long, she will literally just go and stand at the bottom of the stairs. I don't even need to say anything. And then she'll wait for us to release. And it's even got to the point where sometimes I'm distracted and I'll go to walk up the stairs and I think, why isn't she coming with me? And she's standing and waiting at the bottom of the steps being like, Mom, like you forgot to release me.
Right.
And then I'll say, okay. And I never even had to say it. So they can learn to do it independently. But when they're learning, we try to give them as much help as we can.
Yeah. I like Jacqueline's point. I always have my dog sit and wait before we go outside because we always have rabbits in the yard.
To do the rabbit check first.
Yeah. It gives you an opportunity to go out there and make
Fabulous.
sure that you don't have a squished rabbit when you finally get to catch up with your dog. What other questions did I see? I've seen some really good ones.
Shandy.
I like that. Yeah, let's show Shandy's question. Heidi's ears perked up, hearing Kayl's ready. That's often for Kayl's agility students. Those young dogs can know when they hear that sound. So Jennifer Langley says, how young can I expect a puppy to start to give you a weight, and for how long?
We will start teaching our dogs a weight command as early as 10 weeks old. We don't really insist that the dogs wait for a really long period of time. Right. It might be like 5 or 10 seconds, and that would be with us nearby and, coaching them with our voice and rewarding them often, and then we would build from there. But weight is absolutely an exercise that you can start early on in your training. Just be smart about the duration and how difficult you make it based on what you think your dog's ready for, because they're all different.
Yeah, and one thing that you really need to keep in mind, any skill that you're training, and weight is a really good one to use this example, but you need to think about the 3 Ds. There's duration, distance, and distraction. So you need to be really aware of all 3 of those things. So when you're training your young puppy or whatever young dog in training, you want to challenge them on one of those aspects at a time. You're going to increase the challenge. Maybe you're going to stay out in front for a little bit longer this time. Maybe you're going to move a little closer, but you're going to add a distraction to make it, a little more stimulating, and maybe they'll get excited and move out of position. But you're only going to challenge them with one of those Ds at a time. You're going to increase that challenge. So that's especially with a young dog, I would keep it short and sweet. And if you're going to make things more difficult, it's probably in your best interest to maybe add a little leash wiggle or something that's easy for you to fix if your puppy makes a mistake.
Yeah, and I think you should consider your dog's confidence level as well. If your dog's really confident, they might be able to catch on to this more quickly, and also consider where are you practicing. I wouldn't maybe go to the park with like a bunch of kids running around and practice my weight for the first time. We typically like to practice, in a quieter environment where it's really easy for the dog to do it well, and then from there build in more distractions or change the environment more gradually so that we're not like overwhelming the dog by doing something completely different.
This brings up an interesting point, and something that I've had conversations about is, the idea that, the alpha always walks through the door first, and, you need to walk through the door first every single time. These are sort of old myths, but they still exist, and it's, people still talk about them quite a lot, but it just sort of sprung in my mind that the idea of asking your dog to sit and wait is giving them a job, and then you're allowing them the reward of going through that passageway. So, it's not just because you're being an alpha, it's because your young dog's learning that they, give you some effort, and then you give them something great. It's a really great way to build drive.
Taking control and showing your dog that, that it's not so much about being the alpha. It's about teaching your dog that they need to listen to you. And, you're in charge and you call the shots. But this is it's an easy, non-confrontational way to teach your dog that if you do this, then I'll let you do that.
Yeah.
And puppies are so smart. They can, and dogs of any age, you don't have to do this with a baby puppy. You can do it with a dog of any age. But they really do figure it out very quickly.
It was so valuable for me with the adult lab that I had to teach her the weight. Like that was such a helpful skill.
Yes.
Any lab owners out there, let me know in the chat if you're a lab owner, because those labs are so rough and tumble, and they love to run up and down the stairs, and they love to go get your ball and run back excited.
Yeah.
Like they just love that sort of thing. So I had to be really careful if I were going downstairs or upstairs. Once I taught Deegan how to wait, then I could safely, with Tim Hortons doubles in my hand, I could go up the stairs, and then I could allow her to follow me up. I just like saying it that way. I don't even know why. Then you could allow her to go up, but and giving her that responsibility, giving her a bit of a challenge is always good. Teaching your dog to work for you, and that they'll get something in return.
Real life rewards are really important. I know my oldest dog, Funky Monkey, she used to just jump at the door all the time to go outside. It used to bother me because she'd get her muddy paws on the door. And so we just worked on, if she sat, then I would open the door, and it it worked very quickly. She would race to the door 100 miles an hour, but then she would sit and look at me because she knew the only way I was going to open that door is if she was sitting, and she wanted to go outside so badly that was essentially her reward for giving me something that I wanted.
Yeah, I like Patricia. I have 2 boxers. It's close enough to a lab.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so I think we need to talk about rewarding, how you're rewarding your dog, and some things that can go horribly awry when you're teaching the weight, because there are some mistakes, super common mistakes that you might make at home, and we've seen them, that really almost untrain the skill. So Kayl mentioned really
This happens all the time in agility.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that specifically.
People say, "Oh, my start line, I don't have a start line."
Right.
And I can tell them within 30 seconds why they don't have a start line usually.
Yeah.
So the thing that you have to remember is that dogs are masters at reading body language. So if you are working your weight command, and most of the time that you're practicing your weight command, and this isn't relative.
Let's try something fun here.
What?
So if you were to give a release a few times out here without a beeline, but you sort of blurred what the cue was, we'll see if these guys can figure out what that release becomes.
I don't understand.
So,
you do it with me as your dog.
Okay.
Apparently we're doing a demo.
Yeah, we're heading
I have no idea what he's about to do.
We're heading on over to the train station. So if you guys, I mean, you don't have to be my dog. You could probably sit over there. But if you guys have your dog on a start line, or you're training your dog in a wide open area, and each and every time you're going to release him, you say, okay, 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 okay. What do you think that release is going to become for your dog? What's the first indication to them that it's release time? It's going to be this. Right? Your dog is very quickly going to learn that the moment that your hand comes off your leg, same thing happens with the recall.
Yeah.
You know, people will often say, come, and the dog only learns to recall on this. When people stand up and call come, the dog doesn't have that same cue. And here's the challenge with your recall when you start to blur those cues, is that your dog, if they're running the other way, they won't see this. So your dog won't see this. They will see this hand raise, and that'll be the first thing they release on. And that also, and this is speaking to that agility.
Yeah, this happens in agility all the time, because people will leave their dog in a start line and they'll lead out onto their agility course, and then they'll say, okay, and they'll bring their hand up as if to cue the first obstacle. And then what happens, or another thing that I see, is they will walk out and they'll turn and look back at the dog, and they'll say okay at the same time. And so what happens is the owners can't go out and look at their dog, because if they do, the dog just starts the course without them. So it's really important that you proof those types of things by going out and putting your hand in the air. Yes, good weight, and going back and rewarding the dog, or going out looking at your dog, looking away, looking back, and then rewarding your dog, so that they understand that the release isn't necessarily about something that you physically do with your body. It's about what you're doing with your mouth. It's your voice, so that you have a little bit more freedom in what you do with your body in order to have them wait. So I want to be able to tell my dog to wait, and I do want to be able to open my crate door in my van and be able to get something out of my bag and have my dog hold position without me having to stand like right in their face with a hand signal. I want my dog to understand that there's a bit of responsibility on their part to do the exercise independent of what I happen to be doing until I use my release.
That was an accidental activation of the switchback cue, but drop knowledge here.
Ow.
In the train station.
Just squished my finger between the seats.
Uh-oh, you all right?
Yep.
So let's check on some of the questions in the queue. I like this one from Kathy Lee. It's a little bit weight related, and this could be something that we that would lend to that. What about focus? My border collie tends to lose focus after about 10 minutes of training. Are smaller sessions better?
Yeah, short sessions are definitely better than longer sessions. Or in your sessions of training, don't do the same exercise for super long. In 10 minutes, you could easily practice 2 or 3 exercises, switching it up for your dog. And then eventually you want to lengthen those time frames that your dog could listen to you for more than 10 minutes. We want to take our dog for more than a 10-minute walk, or there's lots of times where we need our dogs to learn to listen a lot more than that. But when you're training something new, it is definitely a good idea to keep the training sessions short and sweet.
For sure. So Melinda Miller says, my agility instructor encouraged me to pair an arm drop with my start line release. She said it's good in case the arena is loud. Why is it a bad thing to have a physical cue as well?
I disagree with your instructor, unfortunately. You don't want to have a physical cue paired with your verbal cue when it comes to agility training specifically, because all of the physical cues that we do, you just can't be perfect with it all the time. If you go to rotate for a front cross or you do anything and it looks remotely close to what you're doing on your start line, your dog could be self-releasing. You really do want to have the dog respond to a verbal command for agility specifically. I also see a lot of people who have issues with start lines also have issues with contacts as well. Right. Their contacts, dogs holding until being released, also goes away. So test your dog so that you can lift your arm up, you can lift your arm down, you can wave them all around, you can do all kinds of things, and your dog learns to hold position until you release with the word okay. I have been doing agility for well over 30 years in probably more arenas than most people on this planet. And I've never felt it was too loud for my dog to hear me say okay.
Yeah, I think that's really important to think about. Also, I mean, we've been in some humongous spaces, like huge world championships where there's like dogs barking and everything. But what springs to my mind is that your dog is
You're playing with fire if you do
well,
that,
your dog is focused on you when you lead out. There's no question
they know
what that release is going to be. So it's just not a concern. And there's so many runs. I feel so bad for people when they don't have a solid start line and they get out halfway and then the dog takes off.
Challenging.
It's hard to catch up at that point. Talking about rewarding for the weight and frequency of rewarding.
Yes.
I think we should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think people get really excited about the fact that they can release out of a weight. So what often happens is the ratio to releasing the dog out of position often is much greater than the ratio of, or going back to reward the dog in position. And basically I chalk it up to whatever the dog, needs more. So if you have a really busy dog it's difficult for them to hold position, it's difficult for them to be calm, I would be going back and rewarding that dog way more often than I would be releasing them out of position. If I had a dog that lacked speed or motivation or confidence, then I would do the opposite. I wouldn't make them wait for ages. I would make them wait for a short period of time, and then I would release them out of it to take the pressure off a little bit. So you do have to do what's right for the dog. The other thing that's really important when you're rewarding them on a weight is how you reward. So, and I did sort of demonstrate that earlier when I was showing you with B at the beginning of the train station. But I rewarded her in a way that she didn't have to lean forward to get the food from me. She didn't have to get up out of position. I went right up close to her and I rewarded her in a way that she could maintain the position that I was working on. I was working on a sit for that particular one. And I rewarded her with her attention up towards me. So I held the food in a way that she didn't feel that the food was magically falling out of the sky into her mouth. Right. She knew that rewards were coming from me for holding that position. So placement of food and ratio of food is also really important.
Yeah, really mix it up. And if you're thinking, okay, my dog is pretty confident, so I'm going to reward them twice, and then on the third time, I'm going to release them every time. It's amazing how quickly your dog's going to figure that out. They're going to figure out that, I've sat for two. This is the one where he releases me. So really be self-aware, because these are the little things that
I just want to give a special shout out to Farmer FPV.
I know.
Who happens to say you don't even look 30 years old.
I saw that, yeah.
Thank you.
That's very nice.
Ken and I often have little contests to see who gets carded
over
at the LCBO, and for those of you who don't live in Ontario, that's our liquor store. And I'm 36, but the reason why I said 30 years is my first agility competition was when I was 6 years old. So I can get away with saying 30 years. Yes. I didn't really know what I was doing back then, though.
This one's just for Daryl, who's joining us here again.
Oh, what's up, Daryl?
Welcome back, Daryl. And SD Cruiser as well. Everybody's just calling out the toot toots.
Nice.
And I'm here to toot for you. Let's see.
As long as this is the only time you toot, that's good.
Let's see here. What's a good question to add?
That's good.
This one, okay. So Julie says, I have a one-year-old chocolate lab. She's my first dog, and I didn't realize how important a release word is. I love this.
Cool.
How do you implement a release word at this point? it's like Julie read our training plan.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the release word, the value of it for all exercises.
Yeah. So the value of the release command on all the exercises, and specifically the weight command, is that my dog needs to understand how long she should be doing the exercise for. What we don't want the dog to do is do the exercise for as long as they feel like it and then just sort of walk away and do their own thing. Teaching them to sit, for example, it's not very convenient for me to tell my dog to sit, have them sit for a couple seconds, and then they just sort of walk away, and then I have to tell them to sit again. Yeah. We want sort of that longevity to be built into that particular exercise. So to provide clarity for the dog, we want to clearly state when the exercise begins and clearly state when the exercise is finished. So we use the release command. We say, okay. Some people say all done. Other people say break. The word, it really doesn't matter, but it's something that makes sense to you and that you can be consistent using at all times so that your dog understands to continue doing that exercise until they hear the word.
I'm going to post a comment in a second, but I might as well do it right now.
You're being ridiculous.
I agree. Dan the man supporting
just
me.
Because
With
you
that
guys
said, though,
have a bromance.
Jennifer said you don't look 36 at all.
Thanks.
You guys are being very nice. Too nice here. The importance of that.
Our heads are going to get big. Don't tell us that.
Imagine. I hope we're going to have to get a camera with a wider lens.
Wide angle lens.
Think about all the skills that you work on with your dog and how important that release word is. If you want longevity, if you want your dog to understand that they have a job to do until you release them, this is how you get those reliable sits and stays. This is how you get those reliable downs. Mm-hmm. It's how you get that reliable recall so that your dog doesn't zoom in and then take off again.
Yeah, we say that all of the time. People have a great recall. The dog comes in and they're just about to get a hold of the dog to hook the leash on and boom, the dog takes off again. So that's not very convenient. The other thing that's really important about having a release command is that it allows you to be in control so that your dog understands that, you're the one that is dictating what's happening. If they get to decide how long they have to do something and how long they have to listen to you, it kind of takes away from your importance and your control over the dog. So again, the exercises that we want to do, we want to establish leadership over the dog. We want to establish control so that they learn to be a good listener. But there's lots of ways that you can do that without having this huge disciplinary thing with your dog. It can be simple as having rules and set expectations and making your dog follow them, following through when they're not listening, and taking a dog and simply placing them back into a sit when you haven't released them. That is eye-opening for some dogs to be like, oh wait, I'm supposed to wait for you to tell me, and then all of a sudden it's like you have this big aura of control that flies out of your head, and they think, oh my goodness, I have to listen to this person because they're making me follow these rules. And that can immensely change your relationship with your dog, and all kinds of issues in you and your dog's life can get better simply from teaching a weight command. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth.
Tens of thousands of dogs, nearly 100,000 dogs, are sort of a testament to that point of view, to that perspective.
School,
chipping away. We've trained more than 90,000 dogs. We're quickly approaching 100K. That's pretty neat.
That's super cool.
We're getting really close to 100K on the YouTube channel too.
Maybe we can have a
really
double
cool.
100K party.
That would be really neat. But as you chip away at these little things, as your dog gets these skills, these tiny little wins along the way, I will tell you, because I've witnessed it. Personally, I've witnessed it as a student, long before I was a dog trainer, seeing how these little wins along the way were so beneficial to my dog's understanding, and how the little impacts, like having a solid weight, having a solid down, how it helped my jumping up, how it helped my loose leash walking. The little things are so helpful. Now I saw, what was this question here? I wanted to toss one of these questions in.
I just want you to add this one to the queue.
Okay, we can answer right now even. This one?
This one? Nope, this one.
Okay.
Yep.
Francisco says, how do you balance quantity of food you give your puppy with the treats you give them? Less food if you give them some treats. I like this. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're going to be doing a lot of training with your dog, you definitely want to cut back on the amount of meal food that you're giving your dog, because definitely can cause your dog to cause weight, and it also can decrease your dog's drive for food. We actually just put a video out on Monday literally about how to work on building your dog's drive for working for food, even if they're not really into it. So that would be a good one to watch. But what you can do is take, give them a little bit of their meal and then, use your treats on top of that. Or what we often like to do is put their meal down, take whatever we don't give them in their meal, and we put it in a little Ziploc bag, and we might add some tasty treats on top of that, add some cheese or some hot dogs or, whatever it might be that's a little bit more exciting than their kibble. And then we'll keep that on us, and we'll use that to reward our dogs for things all throughout the morning. We'll take it on our walks. We'll work our recalls in the backyard, or while I'm waiting for my tea to brew, I might work some look at me's or some sits and downs. And that's the food that we'll use to reinforce our dog throughout the day. And, we don't use food forever in our training. We use it in the initial stages, but in the beginning, we use it a lot because it's one of the most valuable resources to get your dog listening and learning that working for you is a lot of fun. Once you've established that and some basic skills, then you can start to wean off of the food as time goes on.
I like this. Patricia Denston. I use bounce as a release word. When I first started training dogs,
that's cute.
A trainer said to be careful of common words. She said, imagine your dog sitting while you are chatting and your friend says, okay. So this speaks to a couple of points, though. You'll see really quickly, Patricia, that the more you're working with your dog, the more inflection, how your inflection changes things.
Yes.
So if Beeline were in a sit and I said, yeah, okay, I think that's a good idea, she's not going to move. It's when I give her that very intentional, okay, the way she hears it, not just that, how much your dog pays attention to you. If Kayl and I were having a conversation, she asks Beeline to sit, and I'm chatting away like I always do, just yap, 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 yap. And I say, okay, Beeline's not going to get out of that sit because Kayl has asked her to sit.
Yeah, there's certainly nothing wrong with using a different command. You absolutely can do that. One thing that I think is so cool is when I'm teaching, in a room of people and I have my dog with me, there's lots of times where I'm actually addressing the class and I'll be saying the exact same words. I'll be saying, okay, I'll be saying sit down, and my dogs will just sort of sit beside me and wait. And then I'll turn and I'll look at them and I'll say the command and boom, they listen. So dogs are absolutely brilliant at being able to figure out, who's saying what to who. If you're in the park and a whole bunch of dogs are running around and you say come, you're not necessarily going to get every dog in the park to come. Even with our own dogs, our dogs running around, if I say, B, come. Yeah. Only B will come. Yep. None of the other dogs will respond. So they're so smart.
Yeah, they really are. So I can tell, what a lot of agility handlers will use break.
Yep.
Yeah, so using a different word is absolutely okay, but don't feel like you have to avoid common words. Now, if you were using, this sort of bridges a little bit, if you were using something like no as a disciplinary marker, then I would avoid common words for something like that because...
Yeah, it's more of a disciplinary negative thing.
It's such a negative thing that I would just avoid. I wouldn't want the dog ever thinking that they were wrong when they weren't. But I wanted to talk about this really quickly because I missed it. Let me get this question in here somewhere. I've lost it now. A question about this one. So Katie says, I use yes to mark the behavior, and then I use a release word break. Is that all right? So let's head on over to the train station and show how we're going to work through little bits of distractions.
Yeah, and I will say that for our training, yes, in the way that we train things, and I don't know if everybody else in the world does this, but yes to our dogs is not the release command. It means that what you're doing right now is right. Keep on doing it. And then we have a release command to come after that. So we don't actually want our dogs to move out of position or stop what they're doing if it happens to be something that's in motion while we say the word yes. We actually want them to dig in and do it even more. And then we'll use our release command from there.
Yep. Good. Okay, let's talk about how you can add a little bit of distraction into your training and how to maintain good timing. I think Katie has moved us great transition. Speaking of segues, let's head on over to the train station.
Okay, what do you want me to do here?
Just go show a distraction and Mark, you want me to help?
It doesn't matter. I can do it. Whoa. Okay, I think somebody is excited about this tug time. Okay, so I'm making her a little crazy about this toy right now because I'm actually going to work on a bit of a weight command with it in a moment. Oh, she's got it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a little bit on her impulse control here. Good girl. Okay, out. Good girl. Out. Good. Sit. Good. Wait. So again, I have the leash on, so I have control and I can redirect her if I need to, but I'm not going to use it unless I absolutely have to. So I'm not saying wait, holding her back, because she's not waiting at all. She's just letting me do all the work. My leash stays loose. Wait. wait. Good girl. Good, wait. Yes. Good, yes, good. So again, I'm saying yes, but she's not moving. Yes means to her, I'm doing the right thing. When I'm first starting, I could even yes. And I could reward when I say the word yes. Good girl. Good, wait. Yes, good. Ready, set, okay. Yay! And then I could use that okay command, and then we can have a little game of tug from there. Good girl. Maybe I can make it a little bit harder this time. Ho, 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 ho. Okay, out. Out. Good. Now, if your dog retrieves, out, get back, sit. If your dog retrieves, you could do things like fake throw it out. Wait. Yes. Wait. Yes. Good girl. Wait. Yes. Very good. Wait. Good. Wait. Good. Wait. Ready, set, good. Wait. Okay, yay, good girl. You can see how clear I'm making the release, and then I'm making a lot of fun. I want her to think that if she holds that weight, really good things are going to happen. Good girl.
If she were to make a mistake,
yes,
as you're at a distance, how do you maintain that same good timing?
Out, good girl. Now, if she be out and sit. Oh, she likes this game. So if I practice and I threw the toy out, and I said wait, and she said, I'm not waiting, I'm going for the toy, I would first use my voice to pinpoint her error, and for her, I would use something like oops or at, something that sort of says, no, you can't do that. So she started to go, I would say oops or at, and then I would take her right back to where she was, sit, good girl, and I would just place her into that sitting position, good, wait, and then I would go right back to praising her for that good position. Again, timing is crucial. I said before that you need to reward within 1 second of them doing something correct. You also need to place them back within 1 second, or at least say something about their mistakes. A lot of people, the dog gets up and then they say nothing and they just pull the dog back. And the poor dog goes, well, what part of that was incorrect? So I need to be clear, clear as mud, as they say. Ready, set, good, wait. Good girl. And you can really challenge your dog by getting them excited. I'm using that ready, set I mentioned earlier in the live stream. I didn't realize I was doing it. I obviously use it a lot. Ready, get set. Oranges. Good girl. Oklahoma. Oh, sit. I'm really making it hard. Oklahoma. Yes. Okay, yay! So you can play little games too where you test them by saying different words, and then you can release them on your actual word when you want to. That was a good girl. Yeah, good. Yes.
Bring it on back from the train station. Now, now's a great time to ask your question. If you still have a question about the weight or about the stay, now would be a great time to ask it. I've seen a couple good questions come through here that aren't specifically weight related, but I think there's a couple good things in here that I want to touch on before we actually go to our caller. If you haven't given us a call yet on the Anchor app, we're going to answer somebody's voice question here in just a minute with our McCann Dogs call-in show. Seems fun to say that. I think you and I would probably have a fun call-in show.
I think so too.
You know, I do enjoy tooting the train whistle, and I think the train whistle conveys just as well over only audio as it does through video and audio.
Could this dog be any cuter?
She's awfully cute. Melinda Miller has a question. She says, any tips for staying in a hotel room for the first time with a dog? My dog is usually great and quiet in the crate, but in a crate I'll have to leave her in the room for multiple hours to go to a wedding. So, Melinda, I mean, it's going to depend on how long you're going to be gone for. Has your puppy had an opportunity to stay in her crate?
In a new place by themselves? Because I know my dogs are very quiet in the crate when they're at home, but I don't necessarily know if like a new dog that I wasn't sure would be as good in a new place on their own. If I'm just settle. If I'm staying in a hotel with my dogs and we have to go out for whatever reason, number one, we always leave them in a crate, because the last thing you want is for them to do something in the room and then you get in trouble for that, regardless of whether your dog's perfect at home or not. Dogs are always different in a room. Or what if they're sick and they throw up on the carpet, or you never know. So we keep them in a crate, or multiple crates if we're traveling with multiple dogs.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we'll often do is we will, okay. I thought we could snuggle, but you're being far too irritating. The The other thing that we'll do is we'll leave the TV on, or we'll leave like some type of background noise on, just so that if you have a dog that can be a bit spooky with people walking by, it just sort of drowns out any of the background noise. And then we'll leave them with something that that can occupy them, whether it's a stuffed Kong or like one of their favorite bones or whatever it might be. But I would probably test out leaving them in maybe a different place that they're not used to in the crate for a little while, just to make sure that they're not going to be barking and screaming the whole time that you're gone.
Yep. Angela, I don't think we answered this. My pup does fine with waiting for her food and getting out of her crate, but the front door is challenging. And some people do like specific perimeter training or threshold training, and that can be a really valuable thing. You're basically marking the moment that your dog makes a good choice to not go darting through the door, but you need to make sure that you're... Oh, look at Beeline. You guys see Beeline?
I don't think she's on the camera.
You've got to make sure that you're not allowing them to be self-rewarded by running through that door. So have your leash in your hand. You can see Beeline behind us. She's attacking the thing.
Yeah. She's got like a 4-foot-long bee thing.
The
other thing you can do for the front door stuff is you can attach a leash and then stand on the leash with your foot, so that when you open the door, if the dog starts to barge out, they'll basically just self-correct by on the leash. And then you can practice opening the door, shutting the door without having to hold the dog back with your hand on the leash. And most dogs will figure out very quickly, if they just sort of back off and wait, then you can calmly praise them. You could even reward them at that point. But that's a good little trick for the front door as well.
Kevin says, my 5-month-old Australian Shepherd gets too excited and distracted outside. What's a good way to calm him down? Well, number one, Kevin, make sure you're using a long line, or you at least have some control of your dog when they do get really stimulated. Maybe that's a leash. Yeah, for sure. And try to find a distance. So maybe going outside in your backyard. I mean, outside is very different. Outside in your backyard, outside at the park, outside, in a public space are all very different things. So try to be conscious of where outside is and work with that threshold. If you find your dog gets super stimulated once you go out in the front yard, but not so much in the backyard, maybe the backyard is a great place to work on some of your listening skills, some of your response to name, work on some of those control exercises, and then take that to a more distracting environment. And I will tell you, things like the wait, things like those stationary exercises where you have 100% control and it's really specific black and white information for your dog. Those exercises are exactly what you want to be doing with a dog who's really stimulated by an environment, because it really gets them to focus on you. It also, with your rewarding, it also gives you an opportunity to reward them, to show them that, I know there's lots of interesting things going on, but if you just remain in position, I'm going to keep feeding you, or I'm going to keep engaging with you, or I'm going to keep petting you, whatever the, high value stuff is for your dog. So, really take advantage of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's important to make sure that before you put your dog, take the show on the road, if you will, that you have a few skills on the dog before you're making things really difficult. I mean, your puppy's only 5 months old, so that's not very old. Probably doesn't have a lot of reliable skills yet, just being such a baby puppy. So work on that first before adding more excitement.
For sure. I just want to pop KDC's comment up. Dan Luton, do you have a video offhand to help build toy drive for the toy? Bee has so much enthusiasm, and I want to build that into my young dog.
She is.
We do have a couple of videos teaching all about toy drive on the channel. Mm-hmm. I think Dan's probably dropped the link there. One thing would be really focusing on tug, whether it's fetch. I know someone had a question about fetch in there, but whether it's fetch or whatever. A tug is a great way to build a relationship with your dog. It's also a great way to exercise a little bit of control, because the foundation of that is that they have to have a good out.
I think the type of the toy that you use is important as well.
Yep.
Making sure that the dog truly finds the toy exciting. A lot of people just get like the token like rope toys, and I know tons of dogs don't like rope toys, but it's like the token dog toy. So you got to use things that your dog really likes. The toy I was using, I just put it over there. It actually, Bee will tug on any toy, but we actually got it for another one of our dogs that isn't as toy motivated, and it's a pouch that you put food inside of that has a bungee on it. So when I opened it up, the dog can eat the food inside. So, and she loves food, so she's associated food with the tug toy to get a little bit more exciting. Another trick that really works well is to put the toy on a rope or a string or a leash and to whip it around on the ground and get the dog to chase after it, because it really ignites their toy drive, and you can build a lot more value for the toy.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the term flirt pole, it's the same kind of thing, really getting your dog excited about the motion. The other thing people do, and I don't know whether you mentioned this because I was sort of doing stuff, but hold the toy in the dog's face.
No, I didn't mention that.
You didn't mention that? Yes, one thing that people often will do, and I guess I'm not sure why we do it, but people will hold the toy right in the dog's face, and they're like, "Oh, you want this thing?" And the dog's like, "Oh, no, I don't want that thing."
Stop shoving that in my face.
Really activate, like a beeline going for more toys.
She's just going to the toy bin. She's like, "This is awesome."
Activate your dog's chase drive and their prey drive by animating that toy, keeping it low on the ground. Maybe you're holding it over their head or something and you're wiggling it away. Really find that thing that you'll see your dog just snaps in and thinks, "I need to get this toy," whatever that thing might be. So really do your best to keep it animated and keep it fun. Now, I see a couple of questions that have come in on our Anchor app. I'd like to do these voice questions maybe a couple of times, or maybe this is what we do at the end of our shows. I'm not totally sure because I have to figure out how to make all of this work each and every time. And although I like
the technical side of
increasing the challenge, sometimes it can be tough. But if you have a question for us for maybe the next episode, or maybe this is somebody in the chat today is their question that we're going to talk about. But there's a link in the description below. You can go to our Anchor podcast site and drop us a message. But for today, let's find out what the Anchor voice message is. Make this work right.
So we've had our 9-week-old cockapoo puppy for about a week and a half now, and I was wondering what you guys think is the best way to teach a puppy to be alone and to not develop separation anxiety. We've been experiencing a little bit of that when we leave her alone for even 10-15 minutes. She cries really dramatically and doesn't seem to stop. So we'd love to get some tips on that.
Okay.
That's really common.
So that's Mary. So what advice would you give to Mary with her?
Well, there's a couple things. The good news is you haven't had the puppy for very long. So the fact that you're even acknowledging this to be a potential issue already, you're already ahead of the game. So that's fabulous.
Yep.
When you have a dog that you're just starting to expose to crate training this early, which is exactly what you should do, which is fabulous, it's important that your dog is spending quite a bit of time in the crate in situations where you're not just leaving them or going into another room necessarily or going to sleep, because if you have a dog that's a bit sensitive or insecure, they sometimes will say, "Will you put me in that thing?" and then you disappear, and I don't like that. So making sure that you're also doing a bit of crate training where the dog's right in the same room with you, but they're in the crate and they're settling.
Yep.
The other thing that you need to remember is that you're not accidentally encouraging the behavior by letting the puppy out, which unfortunately a lot of people do because they feel bad for the dog, and then they say, "Oh, it's okay," and then they let the puppy out and the dog goes, "Ha ha, I know how to get out of this crate." Or sometimes people will say, "It's okay, shh, it's okay," and they'll speak to the puppy in a very calming and soothing voice, which sort of gives the dogs a bit messages. That would be the same thing as me saying, "Good dog, good for whining, good for making noise." So I need to make sure that my response to the puppy is reflective to what I want the dog to be doing. So I might if the dog is making noise in the crate, I might tell them quiet, or I might, bang the top of the crate a little bit just to sort of
interrupt them.
And then when they're quiet, yes, good quiet. Yeah. I would then use my calm, soothing praise, because that's a great thing to do with your puppy, but it needs to be at a very specific time. And after a few moments go by where the dog's quiet and settled, I would then even let the puppy out for a few moments before putting them back in again. In addition to that, I would also spend a lot of time building value for the crate. So all of the meals would be in the crate, just to teach them that this is your place, this is your bedroom, this is your area where you can go and feel safe and sleep and be comfy and all of these great things. We really think that crate training is an absolutely invaluable thing to train your dogs to do for safety, for control.
And to be able to give yourself...
Training accelerates when you use a crate.
For sure. Yeah, and that is one of the biggest things I find. And something people often ask me is, and actually a student asked me that this week, they asked, how much time should my dog be in their crate? And I talked to her, the family, about focusing on quality of time, not the quantity of time. So if you, it wouldn't be fair to leave your dog in their crate 23 hours of the day and then let them out to hang out in the kitchen for one. But when we have a young puppy in the home, they stay in their crate a lot.
Yeah.
But every time they come out of their crate, we're doing something with them. We're working on exercises. We're snuggling, cuddling. We're, playing tug or playing with a toy, doing something with them. So I really want you to focus on that
tiring them out
time.
essentially. So when they go in their crate, they're like, oh, I get to nap. This is wonderful.
They're ready to sleep by the time they get back into their crate.
Yeah, and Dan just dropped a link in the chat there. Basically, we have a whole list of crate videos for, a whole bunch of different issues or problems or training techniques. So you can check out that link. He said all of our crate videos. You can see that as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan, the moderator, man. So, thank you guys. I don't know if any more questions had just come in, but I think this will be something that we like to do. I like to answer your questions, and I'd love to, hear what questions you have for us. If you have a question, you can send us a link, send us a voice message through Anchor. I put a link in the description below. I need to thank our moderator, Dan the man, just lighten up the chat, making sure everybody's got, the help that they need. And we really appreciate all his hard work and the adorable opening when we went to the live cam.
Oh, I love that.
With the I Love Beeline sign. That was just the cutest thing. I want to thank all you guys for joining us here today. Now, if you feel like you got some value, then if you'd like, you can grab a McCann Dogs Team Tee. I'm not really sure how long these ones will be out. I put a time limit on that training bag, the Fur Family for the Win training bag. But I dig these tees. I think they're really cool. So if you want to be part of the train station team, get one for yourself in the link in the description below. Now, if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We publish new videos every single week to help you to have a well-behaved four-legged family member. And I love these train stations. I love hanging out with you. I love all the great questions. And I love when I get to toot multiple times in a row.
Look at the cutie behind us.
Here in the train station. We'll go to camera 2.
She's coming
up.
Did you hear a whistle? Come here, Gabi. Hop up.
I want to thank you guys for joining us here today. Things are going crazy. Thank you guys for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you soon. On that note, I'm Ken.
I'm Kayl.
Happy training. Bye
See
for
ya.
now.